Good morning and welcome to our Sunday morning virtual service. My name is Reverend James Parker. It's just such a pleasure to be here with you today and a great time for us to come together in oneness. Well, let's get started with our daily word. And our daily word for today is thankful. And it says, thankfulness is my heart's natural expression. I need no special reason to be thankful, no list of blessings to inspire gratitude. Unity author Reverend Eric Butterworth wrote, "One can be grateful with the same spontaneity as being happy. It simply flows forth from within and becomes a causative energy. With a thankful mind and heart, I release worry and frustration, trusting that my every need will be met. I discover more of God's presence in myself and others. Everywhere I go, I see possibilities for good even in challenging circumstances. Eager to share my thankfulness, I welcome opportunities to be of service to others, just as I gratefully accept blessings shared with me. I live in the flow of life, love, peace, and abundant beauty. I am thankful." And the scripture comes from the book of Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 18. "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Let's take a moment and go into the silence and allow ourselves to come into a moment of stillness with God. And so it is. Good morning. Welcome to our virtual service. My name is James Parker. We're going to jump right in. I've got a lot to cover today. My lesson title is Cultivating Grace. Grace is the truth of who we are. It is God's love in expression here and now. In fact, it is synonymous with love. It is unconditional, impartial, and unsolicited. It is constantly active and fully accessible to all. Ramamkrishna said, "The winds of grace are always blowing, but you have to raise the sail. The winds of grace move across the waters of life. We can't control or earn grace, but we must be willing to receive it." I'm going to repeat that. We can't control or earn grace, but we must be willing to receive it. Friends, in Western Christian theology, grace is the love and mercy given to us by God because God desires us to have it, not necessarily because of anything we have done to earn it. It is not a created substance of any kind. It is an attribute of God that manifests as favor when we miss the mark, experience challenges, make mistakes, or somehow fall off our path. It has been defined as the divine influence which operates in humans to regenerate and bless, to inspire virtuous impulses, and to impart the strength to endure trials and resist temptation, and as an individual virtue or excellence of divine origin. It is the free and unmerited favor of God as manifested in the bestowing of blessings. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, it says, each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. We can always interchange the word grace for love. And it is for this reason that we make the statement, grace is the fulfillment of the law. To accept grace, the unconditional love of God, is to step into a world that is larger, deeper, richer, and fuller. It is to step into the gift of a consciousness of unconditional love, actually to become it. We do not earn grace, we receive it. But we can also resist it by holding thoughts and feelings that are opposed to the nature of love, which is our true nature. The consciousness of Jesus, the one that he demonstrated, is called grace consciousness because it embodies a mind and heart fully awakened and expressing from the nature of being, which is the nature of love. By the grace of God, a criminal is still loved by Spirit and can find forgiveness and ultimate rehabilitation through an activity of love that transcends law. Grace is always seeking to express an abundance of good in our lives, whether we think we deserve it or not. We are all created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, our true nature is the same as the force that created us, which is love. When our consciousness expresses from its true nature, grace is the experience. But when our consciousness expresses from some other state, such as resentment, unforgiveness, fear, anger, and so on, then pain and suffering result. John Wesley said, through the bounty of grace, we discover the divine guest inside ourselves. Grace can also be seen as flow, not a thing, but rather a process. When you are living your purpose and flowing in the present, you are in grace. Grace is having flexibility or surrendering effortlessly to living in harmony with truth, where we develop a healthy respect for the mystery of life and become less controlling. When you've developed grace, more of your attention is available. You become, in a sense, more mindful or intelligent. Thus, the opposite of cultivating grace is being in a state of resistance to or denial of your truth. We all want to believe we are in control. We assume there are specific actions we can take to ensure that we are satisfied. We expect God's gifts to be doled out according to some recognizable plan. But grace does not work that way. Instead, it teaches us to let go and let God. Not only are we not in charge, but we also don't have to be. We just need to stay open to receiving. And receiving requires that we give up shame, guilt, unforgiveness, those persistent feelings that we are unworthy, that we don't deserve all that we have, that we're not as good as people assume, that we've messed up, that our whole life is a mistake. Grace doesn't listen to that story. It isn't based on a scorecard. Grace simply happens. Therefore, as spiritual beings, we must practice and cultivate this grace as this great aspect of love that is innately our essence. How do we do this? Well, we often hear the term practice grace. But outside of a spiritual practice, what does that really mean for your daily life? Practicing grace is making daily choices to interact in the world with mercy, kindness, consideration, courtesy, and goodwill. That doesn't mean you disregard boundaries, but you give yourself space to be authentic and flexible with your perceived truth, with acceptance and compassion. Grace is not about perfection. Practicing grace is a process of trial and error that calls for consistent usage. It is about slowing down and being mindful about how we interact with ourselves and others in an honest and loving way. Think of it as giving people, including yourself, the benefit of the doubt. Grace can be hard to practice, but more than that, you can give grace by allowing yourself to come into a moment of being willing to receive. The caveat is that you have no expectation of receiving. You simply surrender that time and place of receiving your grace and love to God, and then become open to how the manifestation of your flow or prosperity shows up. Here are several ways to practice grace in your daily life so that you may become a greater expression of love. Number one, start with yourself. Choosing to treat yourself with kindness and goodwill is probably the greatest gift you can give yourself. And if you can practice grace with yourself, you can more easily extend it to others. Number two, learn to let go. There are so many things we just can't control in life. Learning to let go of the things we cannot change is an act of goodwill many of us need. Don't hold on to things so tightly that you get stuck in a negative space. Number three, practice gratitude. If you start from a state of thankfulness, it is much easier to act with grace. Being grateful shifts your perspective and allows you to function from a place of goodwill. Number four, forgive. Holding on to hurt feelings or bitterness or anger doesn't serve anyone. Being able to forgive allows you to move on. You then don't have to carry the burden of anger or waste your energy acting out of malice against anyone. Number five, apologize. Accepting responsibility for your actions and genuinely apologizing allows all parties involved to move on. Number six, be mindful. Be conscious and aware of how you move through your daily life. Try to be attuned to your feelings, your environment, and those you interact with, but without judgment. It is not an easy task, but the more you practice it, the easier it gets. Number seven, speak kindly. There's a saying, you can catch more bees with honey than with vinegar. When we have something to say, the point is to be heard. Kind words can go a long way. Number eight, have compassion. You never know what someone is going through. When you act from a place of compassion, you are extending goodwill to those around you. It will then more likely be extended to you in return. And we all deserve a little more compassion. Number nine, accept people for who they are. People are who they are, and nothing you can do can force them to change. Acceptance of who someone is allows you to make a better choice about how to interact with them moving forward. Number 10, and finally, have a sense of humor. We often take life too seriously. Everything is not a dire occurrence. Sometimes a good laugh will do you better than a good cry. Friends, practicing grace is no easy task. It requires that you practice a level of self-awareness and spiritual maturity that is not always the easiest choice. But cultivating and implementing a little grace into your daily life can go a long way. Rumi said, "Something opens our wings. Something makes boredom and hurt disappear. Someone fills the cup in front of us. We taste only sacredness, then touched by grace." The grace of God is God's love in action. It is God's gift of love and mercy, given freely to us whether or not we deserve it. The grace of God extends to all people, not only one group, nationality, religion, gender, creed. It does not manifest through merit, but through love. Let me conclude with the modern-day parable of grace, war, and goldfish. Until 1992, there was a country called Yugoslavia on every world map, one united country. Today, it is divided into several distinct countries, including Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Macedonia. This is because of a war that was fought between 92 and 95. They often say that civil wars are the worst for violence, pitting neighbor against neighbor, and certainly this was a war of extreme violence. Dreadful acts were committed during that time against many innocent people, so much so that today Many of the former leaders of that country are either in prison, having been found guilty of war crimes, or in at least one famous case currently undergoing trial for war crimes. In an article published in the San Diego Tribune in 1998, there's a story of a family who lives out this golden Balkan tale. It goes like this. Before the start of the Bosnian War, the Malkoch family lived next to a small lake near the northwest village of Jazira. There were 4 of them, Joe the father, his wife Fahima, and their 2 sons, Zeb and Caleb. One day in 1990, before war broke out, Joe the father returned from a business trip to Austria with an unusual gift for his teenage sons, an aquarium containing 2 goldfish. 2 years passed, and then in 1992, Bosnian Serb forces advanced on the little village of Jazira. The women and children fled, but the men stayed back to resist the attacking soldiers. The war went on for 3 years, and many of us can remember seeing on TV all that happened during that time. The father, Joe Malkoch, was unfortunately killed. When his wife Fahima sneaked back into the destroyed village to bury her husband and rescue what remained of their belongings, she saw the fish. She took pity on them. They'd not been fed for days and days, and yet somehow they were still alive. She let them out at the nearby lake, saying to herself, "This way, they might be more fortunate than us, at least." Now, let's fast forward to 1995 at the end of the war. Fahima Malkoch returned with her sons to Jazira. Nothing but ruins remained of their home and their village. Through misty eyes, she looked away from the house towards the lake, glimpsing at something strange. She walked over to the shore. The whole lake was shining from the thousands and thousands of golden fish in it. She said, "It made me immediately think of my husband, something that he left for me that I could have never hoped for." You see, during all those years of killing around the lake, the water had been completely unaffected. In fact, life underwater had multiplied and flourished. After they returned, Fahima Malkoch and her son started caring for and selling the goldfish. And by 1998, homes, stores, and coffee shops all over the region featured aquariums containing fish from Jazira. The Malkoch house was rebuilt on its original site, and they had enough money to rebuild their lives. The Malkoch story is a parable of God's grace working in the world, even when it seems like everything is falling apart, even when it seems like everyone is fighting, even when there's nothing left. God's relentless grace carries on working away. Grace works in the world even in the midst of chaos. While the war in Bosnia was raging, life below the surface of the small lake flourished, all a bit like ships out to sea. Sometimes the waves break over us and like storms rage around us, but deep, deep down in the ocean, it's calm and still and ordered. Even a 30-foot tsunami on the surface of the ocean makes absolutely no difference whatsoever to the calm thousands of feet below the ocean's depth. As far as the ocean's concerned, it's just a bubble. The tough thing for us, the thing we have to somehow learn, is when life storms are raging, is how to reach down inside of ourselves and flow in the calm, stillness, and grace of the Spirit deep within us. Friends, grace is love. It is the name given to that aspect of us which deals in the increase of our good. It is the regenerative power of love that literally saves us from the full measure of our challenges, misfortunes, and mistakes. Grace is the most benevolent activity of God known to humankind. It heals, purifies, regenerates, and restores us to our natural state of wholeness and then some. Charles Fillmore said, "Grace is the pure, unconditional love of God perpetually operative and expressing toward all humankind. The grace of God is God's love in action." For us, this means the nature of God is always giving. When we accept this truth, believing that God knows ways to bless us that we don't consciously know of, we open ourselves to the divine flow of opulent good, which far exceeds any good we can imagine for ourselves. Every thought and feeling attached to the love and spirit within us brings into manifestation an increase of good. And when we are aligned with this nature of being, this nature of love and divine favor, we are in the natural flow of the creative process of grace. Get ready, friends. Prepare yourself. Become open. Cultivate your grace today and receive, receive, receive. Are you willing to do this with me today? Well, thank you all, and God bless you. Well, we've come to that time in our service where we open our hearts to give. And this is a great time for us to practice the law of sowing and reaping. Now, there are three ways that you can give. You can go to our website at unitychicago.org and press the contribute button, or you can text us at 773-492-8772, or always send us a check to 2650 West Montrose, Suite 110, Chicago, Illinois, 60618. Now I'd like you to take that offering, that gift in your heart, and I want you to send blessings to it as we say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, richly flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful for the blessings of this day. I am grateful for the blessings on the way. And so it is. Friends, if you prayed that prayer with us, you are moving energy, you're moving substance. Now open your heart, open your mind, get ready to manifest and receive your good. Now let's take a moment and pray it into existence. Heavenly Mother, Father, everything God, thank you for this time, this opportunity that you've allowed us to come forth with a giving heart. Take our gift, God, and use it out in the world to make the world a better place. Then return it to the giver, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Return that gift 100-fold. Fill their bank accounts, fill their wallets. Remove any debt, any burden, remove any sense of unworthiness. Allow them to come forth in your perfect way and to be blessed. Bless their families, bless their homes. Now, God, I ask for your time to send your light into our community, our church. More of you, God, less of me. More of you, God, less of me. More of you, God, less of me. And we see it all working now in the name and the very nature of Jesus the Christ. And so it is. Amen. Well, thank you, friends, for coming forth today. If you're new to our church, welcome. Welcome to our home. Welcome to our community. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. Please come back. And if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, ring the bell, share it with a friend. We want our message going out into the world. And if you're going through anything, if you're having a struggle in your life, go to our website at unitychicago.org. Check out one of our sermons. Check out one of our meditations. Allow yourself to be uplifted and inspired. Now, I ask that you stick around to the end so that you can hear, so that you can see our messages, our announcements. There's some great opportunities there for you. And now I ask that you become still and let us say our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Well, friends, thank you for being here with us this week. We love you. Come back and see us next week. We'll see you soon. Take care.